Ancient Training Systems presents the Strong History Podcast in association with Macmillan's Martial Arts and Iron Storm Kettlebells.
And welcome to the fourth Strong History Podcast with me, James Raper, and my guest,
Ewan Grewal.
Ewan. You're a gym owner?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, and a competing athlete?
Not at the moment, no.
No. And tell everyone about yourself and your facility.
Yeah, so I'm the owner of the Engine Room Gym. We're based in Mutley Plain in Plymouth. We've been open for just over 2 years now. And we, by trade, are a bit of an old school gym. We like our metal plates, we like our old school equipment, big dumbbells. So we tend to draw a large percentage of our members are what I deem as the more serious athletes. The way that I segregate your gym goers, you've got your people that go 3 times or less a week or 4 times or more a week, and I would say at least 90% of our membership population trains at least 4 times a week, so more towards the serious end of the spectrum.
You've got a lot of, quite a number of competing physique athletes here.
We do.
Well, don't you?
Yes, we do, yeah. We've, every year there's a competition it's now called the MASS competition, which is the Muscle Athletic and Sports Society. It used to be called Mr. University, and that's a student-only physique competition. That was our first ever competition that we entered. We had a team of 7 athletes, I think, who we prepped right the way through. 6 out of 7 of them, it was their first ever competition, and we went on to win the whole competition. We had an overall male physique winner. We had the rest of them all placed top 3, and from there really our interest has sort of snowballed right the way along to more serious competitions, UKVFF, UK Ultimate Physique, BNBF, along with a few female competitors along the way as well in NAC and various competitions like that.
So how did a strength and conditioning coach find himself amongst all these physique and bodybuilding athletes?
By accident, if I'm honest with you. By trade I've always been a sportsman. Gym training has always only ever been there to supplement my sports. So I played football, basketball, believe it or not, got my height, cricket, golf, various things like that. And I always used strength and conditioning to further my ability in sports. I've never looked towards the bodybuilding or physique side of things until I opened up this place just over 2 years ago. There's a gentleman who was a member here right from the start called Matt Salis. If you Google the name Matt Salis, you'll see his repertoire is quite large. And it was actually him who got me into the physique side of things and looking at that side of fitness and that side of gym going beyond sort of the performance side of things. And yeah, just with the interest that we piqued through a small group of members that we had here, my interest has gone on from there.
So how has going from a strength and conditioning background and now you're sort of creeping into that physique side, how has that changed the way you're looking at fitness? Because you've spent quite a bit of time in the fitness industry,
yeah,
but not over at this side. How's your experience been so far?
It's been interesting. I'm always someone that loves to learn more. It's taken my views on fitness from a functional point of view to an aesthetic point of view. So before, when I was training in the gym, I never had any interest about how I looked as such. Obviously, I wanted to look like an athlete, but I didn't spend any time at all looking in the mirror wondering how good my biceps or my back or my chest looked. It was purely for performance. And now it's sort of drawn me to look at the other side of things and look at it more of an art. I don't see bodybuilding as a sport as such, and a lot of people would disagree with me with that. I see it as a performing art. It takes a lot of training and dedication to step on stage, but I don't believe it takes a large amount of skill as such as a sport would do. So I class it as an art. But I don't know if people disagree with me on that.
No, I think I'd agree with you. It takes patience and dedication, a keen eye.
Yeah.
It takes meticulous planning, all the things that you would think of as an art form would.
Yeah.
You know, being an athlete is, although obviously you can train to be an athlete, you can get better at doing what you do, but sometimes it's a thing you're gifted with.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, to be a world-class athlete, you are gifted in that area.
Yeah.
But in bodybuilding, of course, some people are more genetically dispositioned to be better bodybuilders, but bodybuilding as an activity, it is an art. You need to look at it like an art.
I mean, I've got friends who have absolutely, and they'll be the first to admit, have absolutely no sporting ability whatsoever. You know, you could throw them a basketball and they wouldn't be able to catch it. You could throw them a tennis ball and they wouldn't be able to hit it with a tennis racket. And they're not natural movers. So you put them on an athletics track, for example, they couldn't really run, jump, throw as you would see a normal athlete. However, they've got some of the best physiques that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It's a funny old thing, bodybuilding. It's something that, not having an artistic eye myself, really, even when filming or anything like that, I look at everything in a way that would be, that frame is equal to that, so that's fine, that's good. Yeah, it's not like it's not something I can say, oh, that's a beautiful shot, or something like that. It's something I can't judge. Like when I see physiques, I can tell that that's a good physique, but I wouldn't be able to tell which is better. Just because I just don't have that artistic eye.
Yeah.
And it's something that's a little bit alien to me when it comes to like training, doing strength training and martial arts. It's just something that I've never really been interested in, with the exception of using muscle building methods to improve athletic performance. So what has changed? Do you think there's a negative aspect to things like physique sports, as it were? Or a negative impact on the fitness industry as a whole?
Yes.
Or the way they're represented or what they do?
I believe so, yes, because I mean my history on physique athletes is fairly limited, having, I've not done a huge amount of history on physique or bodybuilding, but from my perception as somebody who, recently coming into this side of the industry, the physique athletes tend to portray the more clean-cut, potentially natural, more desirable physique, as opposed to the bodybuilders who were or are now. Bodybuilding has now become about the mass monsters, it's become about the freaks, it's become about the biggest guys.
It's almost like a sideshow.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's not to come down on anybody who's doing that sort of thing, but it from the outside it is a bit of and even from the inside the fitness industry, it's a bit unmarketable, as it were.
It's become unattainable from a lot of people. So I think the good thing that physique athletes have done, and the general physique side of it, is it's made the art become more attainable to your average person. So somebody will look at, for example, Kai Green, and they'll say, well, I'm never going to get that big, because a lot of people don't think, they don't think they're going to be able to get that big for obvious reasons. Whereas somebody will look at someone like Ryan Terry, and they'll think, wow, that guy's in fantastic shape, but he's actually not a huge amount bigger than most people in the gym, and it's an attainable size. The bad thing that physique has done is it's taken that sort of clean-cut, more attainable image, and it's made it look attainable naturally. A lot of physique athletes nowadays will claim to be completely natural of all performance-enhancing substances. Now, I've never been against assisted athletes. I think that to get to a level nowadays, some people don't have a choice but to become assisted. However, I've got a massive gripe with assisted athletes who claim to be natural. And I think that's where physique has come into it, because it is attainable naturally. Some people may not have the patience to claim it naturally, which is where this whole muddy grey areas come in. I know for a fact that there are a lot of tested competitions around that are not as rigorously tested as they should be. For example, an athlete could leave it X amount of weeks for a substance to be removed from their body before they step on stage, and the low level testing that they do in the competitions doesn't flag up the stuff from far back. And I think that's where it's almost brought the art into a bit of a disrepute, really.
To be honest, the same thing happens with powerlifting and lots of other strength sports. I mean, me doing the lightweight strongman stuff, almost, I think about 90% of the competitions are all untested, simply because if we all had to pay for the testing, none of us would enter, because it'd be a £50 entry fee. None of us would do it because it would just be too expensive. Yeah, I see what you mean with the assisted athletes, that there's people aren't patient enough to get that physique, because it isn't an attainable physique for most people. You know, most people can get that level of low body fat, that level of muscularity. It's not too far away from a regular person.
But that's where my other gripe lies as well, is that now it's become so commercialised. You get all of these 12-week transformations, 6-week transformations, all of this stuff, and that's where it does make it unattainable. I mean, I've seen it firsthand, guys in here who have come to me for advice, and personal training sessions and that sort of stuff, diet plans, etc. And I give them their diet plans that are completely tailored to them. You know, I've spent 2 hours sat down with them going through every single aspect of their daily life outside the gym to find out what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating, etc. Their diet plan's tailored to them to an absolute T. It's tailored around their training and their lifestyle. They come back to me after 6 weeks and they look a damn sight better than they did when I saw them 6 weeks ago. But in their eyes, they don't look like the 6-week transformations that they've seen online. And now it's become such a commercialised industry, people want those results in 6 weeks, and if they don't get them, they either lose heart of it, or they come to light and they realise the fact that actually that's not, you know, not all it seems.
It was funny, I was talking to a strong man I know, Guy, and we were just talking, and we would have thought that all this whole muscle mag 12-week thing would have, from the, you know, a throwback from the 80s and 90s, would have all blown over with the internet, but it hasn't. Like, people still think, can we go, I want to get, you know, massive and shredded, and I want to put on like 6 pounds of muscle. Alright then, you want to take maybe 3 years to do that? Yeah? 3 years? But I've got this article that says that I can do it in 12 weeks. No. Yeah. You'll be able to put on 12 pounds of weight, no worries. Yeah. You're not all 6 pounds of weight, but it ain't going to be muscle necessarily. It takes a long time. And
it's a subject that's been exacerbated by the supplement industry as well. Marketing isn't regulated as rigorously as it should be. There is a brand, I won't mention names, a couple of years ago who were taken off of the market because on their protein it said it could guarantee to increase your bench by 80%. And you can't make claims like that. You can't tell somebody that they're going to increase their bench by 80%, because that might not happen.
I don't think there's a fucking supplement out there that can make my, if there's a supplement that can make my bench go up by 80%, that would be fucking lovely.
Exactly.
I also have a phenomenal bench.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And now the marketing agencies have picked up on that, and they don't, they screen marketing and packaging very rigorously now to stop false claims like that. However, on the internet you can't do that. You can't stop XYZ person from posting on the internet, follow my plan for only $120 and you'll get, you'll look like this after 6 weeks. There's nothing that can stop that, and unfortunately that is hindering, and it's given the physique a bad name, because all of these people automatically come to the conclusion, well, so-and-so must be on steroids, because how did he get from that to that in 6 weeks, where the real truth is, in fact, it took him 2 years to get like that. but the company that's using his image doesn't tell you that.
No. And the people using other people's image without asking, and then they go, well, I want you to retract that.
Yeah.
The problem is the damage is done.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's too late.
And more often than not, it's done by some tiny little company in America who's just picked up their image from somewhere, from a Facebook page or something silly like that, and you can't track them down.
But this problem isn't new. So the idea that supplement companies saying, yeah, we can guarantee this, or we can do this, or this supplement, this isn't new. I mean, back in the days when bodybuilding first came about, Eugene Sandow and then the Circus Strongmen, the Saxon Brothers and all that, they were selling health tonics, claiming similar claims, to give you long life, be healthy, muscular, and these health tonics contain things like beer, gin, rum, cocaine, licorice, all sorts of really horrible shit. They won't do anything for you. I mean, there are quite a lot of supplements that have been proven over and over again to do nothing, or not do the things they claim to do other things. Like I think it's horny goat weed. You see a lot of that as a supplement. Like, increases your testosterone levels. No, what it does is it helps your blood flow to your penis. This is why you think you've got elevated testosterone level, but you haven't. It acts more like Viagra.
Yeah, it's just a vasodilator at the end of the
day.
Localized vasodilator. But I mean, you would have thought that over the course of the years that claims like that would have been stomped out, but unfortunately, because it's such a vibrant industry now and everyone sees the opportunity to make some money, there's such a large backlog of products waiting to be tested by the relevant agencies that products do make it through the system and they become massive. Jack 3D, for example, made by USB Labs, probably one of the most well-known pre-workouts in the UK, if not in the world, because of how good it was. It only came to light a few years ago that it actually has a very harmful substance in it, hence giving it the kick that it did. But because there's such a large amount of products on the market waiting to be tested, it just so happened that Jack 3D had enough time in the queue to be tested to make the owner a load of money. And all the owner did was put his hands up and say, sorry, I didn't realise it was in there, or I didn't realise that this was banned. But he's then gone and made another product with another ingredient in it that has then had to go to the back of the line, and by the time it's taken for it to get to the front of the line and be tested, he's already made another X amount of million from that. And it's too many products are just slipping through the net like that now.
I think the other thing is people they want results. The people will come down on the fitness industry for doing this, and it's not right. Making false claims or making stuff that is harmful to people. But at the same time, it's just reflecting a demand for instantaneous gratification. People want results now, rather than thinking that if they change their lifestyle over a long period of time, they're going to reap the benefit, a greater amount of benefits. Say, for example, you say you're overweight, you're quite weak, you're very chair-shaped, you really need to change your lifestyle. Now, do you want to go from that person to super fit in 12 weeks? What are you going to do after 12 weeks? Are you're just going to give up because that was hard? Or if you did that over 4 years, you've completely changed your lifestyle. You're never going to go back to the person you were before.
Exactly. And the end product after 4 years is a healthier, happier, better put together athlete than the athlete who's done it in 12 weeks, because they've neglected a lot of the things that, almost like the groundwork before it. You can guarantee that guy or girl who's worked for 4 years to get to where they want to be, started off in the gym, stretching, laying in the groundwork, building on their technique. So they've got an immaculate squat technique, they've got an immaculate deadlift technique, they've dabbled in Olympic lifting, they're competent in Olympic lifting, and through that groundwork they built an impressive athlete after 4 years because the groundwork's there. Whereas after 12 weeks you've got a guy who's come in and tried to go straight into squatting to build up his legs, gone straight into deadlifting to build up his hamstrings, gone straight into a poor overhead press where he's only recruiting from his upper chest and very little from his deltoids, etc. And you have a guy with a potentially impressive physique, but underneath the skin, a whole load of mismatches and poor mobility and poor movement patterns.
Injuries waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, he's one poor squat away from snapping a knee tendon, knee ligament, and you know that's another thing another potential bad mark on the fitness and the physique industry is, again, you said about patience. People wanting to get there in 12 weeks and not laying down the groundwork early, which is why, you know, take Ronnie Coleman for example. He's had 2 hip replacements and now he's just had discs replacing his spine, because people may say he decided one day on a whim that he wanted to be the biggest guy in the world and win Olympia however many times he did, and if he put in the groundwork before that, he might not have.
Yeah, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger started bodybuilding when he was about 17,
maybe 15, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then when he was in the army, he was doing bits. But he was also he competed in Olympic lifting a little bit. I think he did some powerlifting. So he laid down the foundation with strength first before moving on to bodybuilding. Finally, you know, of course, he wanted to look like his idols like Ray Park and Charles Atlas. But those guys again were real strong guys. The idea that the 3 sets of 10 with volume. Again, this should have died out in the 90s, but it hasn't. You know, the idea that 3 sets of 10 is going to get you where you want to go, because that's what like the pros do. And well, the pros might do that, but the pros do that with 100 kilos, 120 kilos on the bench. They don't do it with 60 kilos. You know, you want to lay that foundation of strength so that your tendons and your bones are ready for that amount of volume, rather than just hitting it 3 sets of 10.
Yeah, and you'll find that, I mean, the guys back in the day, if you will, they had other things around them, you know, things were different back then. For example, like Arnie, he still had to be able to climb a rope. You know, he had to be able to climb onto, he was a tank driver, he had to be able to climb into a tank and out of a tank with ease, and they had to be functional, if you will. You know, not just a linear A to B movement. They had to be able to pull themselves up and over stuff and jump over stuff and run, all that sort of thing. So I think back then people turned to strongman, powerlifting, and eventually bodybuilding because that's where their professions took them. You know, yes, they had an interest in it, but Arnie became strong through his regimented training in the army. He just happened to have a lot more dedication than a lot of guys, a much higher drive, and you know the genetics that are there as well. Whereas nowadays, you get guys that go into the gym as a hobby, and they don't have the foundations around them from sport, for example, that helps them with that.
Yeah, they don't. People come in and there's nothing wrong with this because you know I sit at a desk a good 80%, maybe sometimes more on some weeks in my job. You know, there are weeks when I'm constantly at work. I'm not at a desk once, but that's pretty rare. And strength and training is a bit of a hobby, but it's not just a hobby. It's got to be a lifestyle if you're going to change it. And there's neglecting aspects for a lot of, I think, physique athletes, like movement. Movement isn't thought of often, especially for novices. I think this is where the idea that the problem stems with like novice athletes and people just starting out and intermediates, where they get fixated with they just got to do that one thing and they'll be okay with that. Whereas a lot of old school guys would have, like you say, that they'd have a lot of things going on. They'd have other people around them. There weren't many gyms around then, so everyone was sharing the same gyms. So you had powerlifters and Olympic lifters and bodybuilders all sharing the same space, which you're starting to see again now. But say maybe 10 years ago, you weren't seeing that. as much. People were trying to separate themselves out into groups.
I think the biggest impact on that is the development of gym equipment. You know, if you look back in the day, they didn't have all the high tech cable assisted machinery. They had a barbell with plates, they had a dumbbell with, and a bench, and they did the majority of their workout with those simple things, medicine balls, all that sort of stuff, and that involved and necessitated an element of functionality. Yeah. Whereas now you walk into your big commercial gyms and there's a machine, a chest press machine for example, that moves from point A to point B in one linear motion. You can't go an inch left, you can't go an inch right, up or down, and that's only going to target such a small percentage of such a large muscle, regardless of how good you think your muscular activation is. It doesn't compare in the slightest to doing a dumbbell press, and having the development of technology throughout the years has made gym goers a lot less able than they were back in the day, which is why I think a good foundation from either a sport or from a functional strength training is so important to physique athletes nowadays. I'll get a lot of guys now that we've got a bit of a reputation and we've got a little bit of a name, I get approached by a lot of physique athletes and they come to me for training, and the first thing I'll do with them is a postural assessment and assess what they can and they can't do. And the first test I always do with people is the overhead squat test. So I get to put their hands up above their heads, hold them up above as if they're holding a bar there, and I get them to squat. And I would say 98% of people that come to me can't even make it, to 20 degrees, off of a standing position without falling forwards or backwards. And back in Arnie's day, for example, you see him squat, and it's the full range of movement. It's ass to grass, it's right the way up, and not only that, he's doing his sets at 120, 130 kilos at that technique.
Yeah, now it's a 10 for 5.
Yeah,
for 5 sets.
Yeah, and it's stupid weights, but he could do it because he had the full range of movement. And now you get guys that are so stuck in their linear A to B movements that if you try and get them to do one functional movement, the ligaments and the muscles aren't there to be able to do it. I think the new age training, you're basically developing a bunch of robots.
Yeah.
With such limited movements, and
I mean that's where the things like CrossFit have really, and the explosion of CrossFit has a real benefit. Is it's getting people out of that machine-based idea. That whole commercial gym thing has got like a huge rival now, in terms of commerciality and appeal, commercial appeal. There's a big rival to it, and it's that sort of CrossFit gym and the commercial gym. Of course, the best thing is in between, because the only time I've ever really used machines is when I'm injured. But when I am injured, I can't use anything else with machines, because especially if it's like a back injury or my shoulder. I've pulled that a couple of times. My knee. I can't use a lot of the equipment around me. I still want to train. So machines do have a place. Just not entirely convinced commercial gyms have a place.
No, definitely not.
No.
I agree with you in the fact that machines do have a place, but they shouldn't be the be-all and end-all and the foundation of training. They should be there to be used as I use them as an exhaustion technique. For example, when I can't do any more pull-ups, I'll then do lat pull-down, because it really isolates your back, and you can do it at a lighter weight with a better technique. I don't know, a lat pull-down isn't strictly linear A to B, but there's still very little in terms of functionality to it. But it does have its place there as like I said, as a finisher. With regards to sort of CrossFit and stuff like that, it's another touchy subject. A lot of people hate CrossFit and a lot of people love CrossFit. I'm in between. I love the mentality behind CrossFit because I'm a very, very competitive person by nature. I very much like the training methodology. What I don't agree with is the education side of things. There are a lot of, in the same way that there are with personal trainers now, poorly educated coaches out there. And poorly educated coaches leads to poor ability athletes, which leads to busy hospitals.
Yeah.
I'm very much an advocate of, if you're going to coach something to a beginner, you have to be nowhere near a beginner yourself. And that's one thing that I've found when I did CrossFit probably for, I'd say, about 3 years. I never claimed to be a CrossFit coach, but I always said that I was a strength and conditioning coach because I had been for many years prior to that. And a lot of it was transferable, and I was seeing people, I would have joined my CrossFit gym, a new member would have joined 2 months after me, would have progressed through CrossFit relatively quickly because they were quite able.
Athletic.
Athletic. They would have gone to do their CrossFit Level 1 qualification over a weekend, and they would have come back as a CrossFit coach. Now, so the CrossFit community, a CrossFit coach is deemed more qualified than myself, a strength and conditioning coach, regardless of what level I am.
Yeah.
And that's something I really didn't agree with. Because
that's real naughty, because I could go in there, I could go, say I'm a CrossFit coach, get my qualification. Yeah. I've probably never, in fact I know I've never ever done a two-handed snatch.
Exactly.
Not once.
Yeah.
Not a single snatch I've ever done. I've done it with kettlebells and one-handed, but I've never ever done a proper Olympic snatch. And I never will, because it's not anything that interests me. I never want to do the movement. So, there is a fundamental flaw with that. The way that CrossFit is governed. But then that's reflective of the fitness industry as a whole, because the personal training qualification internationally is not very well recognised, and I've looked into the law of it as well, and just because you have a qualification and your qualification might look better than somebody else's, it doesn't necessarily protect you.
No.
Which is really weird.
It's not governed, same as a sports therapist, it's not governed. So a sports therapist as a job isn't seen as a professional, because there's no governing body to say that they are. The same way that there's no governing body for fitness to say they are. Now, Reps has been around the longest, but they're not actually a governing body. They're an insurance company that were there from the start, who were in the market early and have grabbed that market with two hands. And nowadays, everyone knows who Reps are because they've been around the longest. Whereas in fact, there's any number of other insurance companies you can go through, and being with one or the other or Reps doesn't make you any more insured or any more professional than any other one.
Anybody else,
yeah. So that's where it's become a little bit of a minefield now, of what I call 6-week PTs.
Yeah.
No,
that's it.
I don't declare myself a master of personal training. I mean, I'm only 24, but I did get my qualification when I was 15. And it took me a short side longer than 6 weeks. It was a very intense course, it was a very thorough course, and I came out the end of it knowing an incredible amount. And I'm still learning now, doing various other courses, strength and conditioning courses, kettlebell, Olympic lifting, British weightlifting, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas nowadays you get PTs who attend a course for 6 weekends in a row, come out of it with a bit of paper and potentially no more knowledge than they went in. And that's very, very harmful, especially because commercial gyms, as sort of flesh factories, trying to get as many members in as possible, they'll hire PTs because they've got the PT qualification. And that's another thing that's become harmful to the injury now. There are a lot of people out there, the phrase "a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing."
It
has never been so true as it is now. You get a lot of fitness instructors and personal trainers with a little bit of knowledge who, because they're in good shape themselves and they've got themselves into a good shape, thinks they can then go out and help a young to middle-aged woman achieve her goals whereas in fact the only way they know how to do it is through their own training, and that's where they'll potentially come across a lot of barriers.
Yeah, I've not stepped foot in a commercial gym now for nearly 2 years. It might even be longer. But I don't know the state of trainers. But I do remember the last time I did. I thought that's the personal trainers that are walking around and talking, well, they don't look like they've really got any idea what they're doing.
No.
A lot of the balancing board with pink dumbbell time going on.
Mostly balls.
Yeah.
My pet hate.
And I thought, well, that's all well and good for people who need a lot of balance. You know, I've used the balancing boards because I need balance for a specific reason when grappling. You know, it's required. I need to learn how to balance on one foot in case someone grabs my foot.
Yeah.
But Joan, who's 55, does not need to be able to learn how to jump around on one foot. What she needs to do is to learn how to bodyweight squat properly.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people, and because I think people sometimes they just want to seem flashy, so they pull out all the equipment and go, yeah, there you go, was that a hard workout? Yeah, it was. Instead, if you took someone through, like, oh, you need to do okay, let's do 5 sets of 3 reps on a bodyweight squat, then we'll see how you do a push-up from the knees. All right, and you do an assessment, and then you gradually build it up each week by more. This is the better way, but it's not very exciting for the customer.
No, which is why I found, especially, that I lose a lot of business at 21st century PTs initially, and then 6 weeks later, those people will then come back to me because they'll see all these PTs with their flashy kit and stuff like that, and they'll be charging £20 an hour. You know, you can walk up, pay them 20 quid, have your ass kicked for 45 minutes, and then go home feeling like you've done a massive, brilliant workout. But people do that once a week for 6 weeks, and they go, well, yes, I'm a little bit fitter than I was 6 weeks ago. Yes, I'm a little bit, you know, I look a little bit better in the mirror, but I'm also 120 quid lighter than I was before.
And I don't know anything.
Exactly, and they don't learn anything. And people come to me and they find it strange that unless it's for a technique session, I don't offer anything less than 4 sessions. And people find that odd. They say, well, you know, don't you lose out on a large percentage of the market there? And I say, well, initially, yes, I do. But then people will come back to me because they'll say, well, actually, it's going to take me 4 sessions just to learn how to squat properly. Because they've gone away, they've had 6 sessions with a 6-week PT, they've not learned how to squat properly, they've potentially got a little bit of a dodgy knee now because they've been putting load through a semi-squat position, and they've realised, actually, maybe I should listen to the guy who's been in the industry for 10 years.
Yeah, because they'll come up with a commercial gym, they'll go there, they'll get the PT will then try and sell on some weird bolt-on packages and some weird Herbalife program that we all know and love.
Yeah, that's for another podcast.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not entirely convinced I should have said that. You know, they'll sell them a supplement program or a food supplement program that basically won't get someone anywhere. You know, it's like, as we discussed earlier, that the whole health tonic fucking bullshit. The people try and push and flesh factories. What a way to describe them! I love it.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they are.
It's people through the door. That's all it is.
That's it. Yeah, in and out. No retaining.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest gripe, especially, is with the 24-hour gyms. You know, I used to live in London, I used to work for Virgin Active. Now, they weren't a 24-hour gym, and they weren't by any means a flesh factory. They had a massive onus on customer service. You know, the customer was always at the forefront, and their goals were always at the forefront. They had regular free sessions with gym instructors to make sure they stayed on track. It was my job as a gym instructor on the gym floor, this is like early in my career, to talk to as many people as I possibly could on the gym floor before or after they've trained, find out how their session was, how I could potentially help them, if I saw anything that they were doing that I didn't think was as beneficial, or if I thought there was something that could be a little bit more beneficial. That was my job, was to enhance their training.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays you can go to a 24-hour gym, you can pay your membership online through a computer, you can turn up to the door in the day, punch in your code, you can go and train You can do your session, you can leave again, go home. You can do that for 4 months, and you might not even see a member of staff there. You know, you could you could go in having never really trained before, watch hours and hours worth of YouTube videos, and you could see a guy in the squat rack who is a little bit bigger than you and a little bit better shape than you squatting. So you see him squat, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to give that a go. So you go in and you copy his technique. Now what you don't know is his technique is piss poor. So you picked up a piss poor technique from somebody, and you're going in there now squatting, potentially putting harm on yourself, and there's no staff there to stop you. Now I think that is criminal. I think that is absolutely terrible. I don't understand how their insurance company sleeps at night to allow people to go into a gym not having any experience and not be able to be told by a member of staff.
Well, I mean, I know the way that this works, because this is part of like the construction and engineering industry, is the way that they look at this. So there'll be so many 24-hour gyms, lots and lots and lots of them. They'll have hardly any free weights, and I know which gym we're all on about, but we're not going to say its name. And what they'll do is they'll calculate how many people get seriously injured and how many payouts they'll have to give, and they'll balance that against the cost of having members of staff at 4 o'clock in the morning. And they'll just think, no, it's not worth it. Because, I mean, I've been to one of these at 4 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to train twice a day back when I was living in Croydon. And so I trained once there, and I trained the bigger sessions in the evening at a place called the Commando Temple. But it was a horrid place to train. It was blaring in some old shit music that I couldn't stand, and then and on top of that, all the blue lights, real blue light, and all rubber, clean weights, and it was just the worst place to train. Yeah.
And the thing that you, I mean, I didn't know that about what you said about the insurances, etc. That shocks me a little bit. The fact that they would almost say, well, we have an allowance of 10 injuries before we then have to reevaluate our insurance. So they'll say, well, you know, we can allow 10 people to get seriously injured, we can afford to just pay out these people that have been injured and just sweep it under the rug.
Well, that's the standard practice in insurance companies.
Yeah, and it's horrendous. Like I would more, and I've done it when I opened this place, I would much prefer to work from the moment we open at 7:30 to the moment we close at 9:30 at night, just to make sure that there isn't some geezer in the squat rack who's just about to blow out both of his knees. I would much rather do that than have a gym like that and just say, well, if he blows out both of his knees, my insurance company's good enough just to pay him off so he can, you know, be quiet. That to me just epitomises the modern fitness industry.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, and that's the works for the same with supplements. They have dangerous things inside them. They know about it. Yeah. It's all like they'll go, oh well, the LD50 is only like LD50 is only 50 grams, and we're only putting 0.5 of a gram in or a gram in, so only maybe 1 in every 500 people is going to be seriously harmed by it. So fuck it. Yeah, let's stick it in there. Yeah, that's exactly that. That's the attitude huge companies take. But then large like PLCs, PLC companies are sociopathic by nature anyway. So any time that a piece of the fitness industry is taken over by that, it's going to end up really warped. Yeah. Thankfully the internet is fighting it, but it's also exasperating it at the same time, which is crazy. Which is where, obviously back in the day, they didn't have that problem. Like huge companies couldn't necessarily reach that amount of people at once. Couldn't have this automated gym system where, like, you punch in your code, you walk to the door, there's no staff except a cleaner. You weren't able to have that, which is where you're going to see the two sides of the coin, where part of the industry is getting way better. You're getting fantastic trainers and coaches bringing out amazing information available at the touch of a button. You've got people like Dr. Lane Norton, Chris Duffin, you know, people with
Jim
amazing,
Barney and
amazing information, free as well. And then you've also got the 24-hour fitness places, you know, hurting people and just crossing it off just making people a statistic, which is obviously not what the one-to-one people want.
Exactly. And if I have any advice for any listeners who are thinking about getting PT sessions or thinking about joining a gym, look at it over the long-term factors, and also before you approach a personal trainer, have a list of questions in hand, at least 10 questions about them, their background, how long they've been in the industry for, how many clients they've had, do they have any testimonials, and if your PT trips up on any of those questions, walk away straight away, because it's not worth your health, and it's not worth your money to go to a PT that's just going to try and fob you off and train you for X amount of weeks with no end goal. Your first session with any PT, whether it's a free session like my first sessions are or not, you shouldn't even really walk on the gym floor other than to do tests. You know, you shouldn't have your heart rate shouldn't be through the roof, because it takes an hour at least to get to know the capabilities of somebody. So if your first session with a personal trainer isn't all about you and your capabilities and your ability and your movement patterns, walk away straight away.
Right, so we're going to cut it there. So where can people find you, Ewan?
We're online at www.engineroomgym.co.uk. We're also on Facebook, the Engine Room Gym. Or if you head on to Mudley Plain, we are on Ermington Terrace right at the top. Pop in, we do 3-day passes. So if you've never trained here before and you want to come and try out an old school gym, some clanging and some banging of some metal plates, and really unlock your potential, then come and give us a try.
Cool. Thanks, guys.